I would like to begin with a quote by Sigmund Freud. "We must not allow ourselves to be deflected by feminists who are anxious to force us to believe that the sexes are equal." So, following that quote, do we need feminism? Many people say that we don't, because perhaps it is the fact that males have forced us to believe that feminism is something that women should be ashamed of, not wear like a badge of honor. Perhaps it is because often misandry, which is women considering themselves more important than men, being mistaken as feminism, which offends men greatly because they're used to being the ones who are in charge due to thousands of years of proof of that fact. To clear it up now, the definition of feminism is a set of common movements that share a common goal: to define, establish, and achieve equal political, economic, and social rights for both sexes. Notice that even though it is centered on women, feminism is for both of the sexes, and we need both of the sexes to support the cause in order to make these ideologies a reality. Many people assume that feminism is only for women because it starts with FEM, and yet we don't seem to question the fact that mankind starts with man. So, what is feminism? Some might think that the suffragettes finally getting women the right to vote after 44 years of struggling in 1918 was a great way of pointing out feminism. Others might think that Rosa Parks, who, despite not only being black, but being a woman, decided to stay sitting on the bus, is also a good example. But that was all a long time ago, and women's rights have gone so far since then, or have they? Now we focus on different issues. Unfortunately, the feminist front was quiet for a few decades due to the fact that men did turn feminists into more of an insult than anything else. However, lately, more and more people in the media, especially women, have been speaking out about certain notions of feminism. I'm sure we've all heard about Emma Watson's He for She speech that she did last year. And as well as more celebrity recognition, the internet has enabled women and men to be more aware of socio-political issues that we are facing, where feminism is needed. An example of this is a set of advertisements that was placed in the London Underground of a conventionally thin and attractive woman in a skimpy bikini with the caption, "Are you beach body ready?" This advertisement caused lots of uproar in activists as they thought it was spreading an unfair and wrong body image to younger women, and was soon taken down. Following this, Dove, the famous skincare company, set up a new advertising strategy of women of different color and of different shapes saying, "We are beach body ready." When you look at the surface of this, it may seem like they were supportive and it was a sweet cause. However, when you look deeper, it isn't so. Because Dove is also manufactured by the same company that produces Axe, the body spray that is known for notoriously objectifying and sexualizing women in order to sell to the male target audience. When you think about this, it might seem like a tragedy, but it is not uncommon for women to be complimented to their faces and then stabbed in the back by huge companies who are trying to use it as a manipulative marketing strategy to get money off of our insecurities. Hopefully those few examples have already helped you unclench your teeth at the thought of feminism a little bit, but I'm sorry to announce that this is only the beginning of the sexism that we have to face every day. The saddest part of the matter is that I have to be up here telling you about this, as if not every woman has to face misogyny, which is men believing that they're better than women, and is often so deeply ingrained in our society that women develop internal misogyny themselves. As fantastic as it is to have Emma Watson or Taylor Swift standing up and representing the white privileged women who want the same treatment as white men, there are so many limitations that are never faced because it is swept under the rug due to the fact it is not as aesthetically pleasing as a rich white businesswoman wanting to have equal pay as her husband. Although, don't get me wrong, that is also a very important matter. Intersectionalism is the part of feminism that focuses on minorities that are often left out of discussions, such as women of color, trans women, homeless women, queer women, and sex workers, who struggle more than we could ever comprehend. To give you an idea of how dangerous it is to be a trans woman in today's society, even though the idea of it is glorified by the media, a woman who is trans has a 1 in 7 chance of getting killed, and that statistic only goes up for women of color. Non-Caucasian women have it so much harder than white women because the sexism they face is often racialized and the racism they face is sexualized. Strippers and other sex workers are often abused in a way that isn't lawful, despite what men may believe, because they don't understand that you can't demand a service and then berate those who provide you with that service. I remember when I was 10 and I walked up the stairs with my other girlfriends and their mothers to learn about my period and how my body would be changing soon, while the boys stayed downstairs with their male teacher and learned about their part of the story. Because God forbid we integrate youth and teach them how to have a mutual knowledge and understanding of each other in this very difficult time. I remember being 12 and not being allowed to walk outside in the new shorts I had purchased, even though I loved them so much, because my dad told me that men would look at me and I wouldn't be able to protect myself. I then remember being offered to take up kickboxing lessons again, just in case. I remember being 13 and flinching every time a man so much as walked past me on the street. I remember being in a lesson and not putting my hand up even though I knew the answer. I remember wanting to shrink away and not eating so that maybe I could avoid the consequences of being born in this body, because every day I could feel it dragging me down. Now, I stand here at 15 and I can tell you feminism is needed. Not just by me or by my friends or by the businesswoman, it is needed by everyone. It's needed by the homeless woman who, just when she feels like she can't get any lower in her day, gets her period and has no money to pay for the sanitation she needs to protect her dignity. It is needed by every woman who is a victim of sexual violence at war, because soldiers have treated her body like property of a country and abused her in a way that cannot even be described as sexual. It is needed by the queer women who are fetishized in the porn industry, because men believe that even the sexuality of a woman is purely a construct created for their own perverse enjoyment. It is needed by the single woman raising her child, because even though the pay gap between a white man and a white woman has gone down by 0.7% since 1997, it is still so far to go, and women of color get paid even less than that. Because women are taught, it is needed by the boy who sits in class and makes you laugh so hard that you don't notice the sadness behind his eyes, or how his cheeks have been more hollow lately, because real men don't get depression. It is needed by the sex workers and the lawyers and the housewives and the teachers and every woman in every occupation, because that's what feminism is. It's who we choose to treat as humans and what that means. Feminism still matters because we are taught that women are not allowed to be sexual beings in the way that boys are. We are taught from a young age that self-acceptance is bad, and we would find it more normal to see a woman walking down the street crying to herself than it would be for her to skip down the street and smile at everyone she walks past. In the majority of countries, it would be less unusual to see two men walking down the street holding guns than it would be to see them holding each other's hands. Feminism still matters because even in this speech, I'm barely grazing the top of the subject, and because the truth is so many women don't get to have their voices heard. In Saudi Arabia, women aren't allowed to vote. They aren't even allowed to drive a car to get away from the systematic, law-enforced oppression they face every single day. Some women aren't even allowed to be raped outside of their marriage without being prosecuted for them, as if it is a crime that a woman has committed for having her own body. Because feminism should mean freedom of choice, and not just for those who fit a certain quota. Because if a woman chooses to be a nun, that is her choice. If she chooses to wear a niqab, that is her choice. If she chooses to be a woman, and if that is what she identifies as, it does not matter if she has a beard or a penis, she is what she identifies as. Women bring life into the world. We make up half of it, and we deserve to be empowered, but more importantly, we deserve to love and empower each other instead of being put up against each other in competition, not for success in work or school, which could be a good thing, but for sexual partners, as if that's the best achievement a woman could have. The world needs change, and so many of us here are privileged enough to be able to make that happen, but we just aren't doing it. The behavior of adults affects the younger generation so much, it has been proven that prejudice is hereditary. So if we want this generational turnover to effectively wipe out sexism, then we need to start having compulsory education on gender equality in lessons. Because in a classroom full of people, only 2 are likely to know the definition of misogyny. We spend entire days dedicated to learning how many chairs each political party has in government, while outside, girls are learning how to keep their heads low, voices quiet, hands down, feelings off, and then we are surprised when our daughters are afraid to be around boys who are taught that the best strategy is to not take no for an answer. Education on gender equality should be compulsory because we should be teaching youth how to disassemble the patriarchy, not how to build it a bigger throne. Not only for young men to understand how to treat women correctly, but to have girls growing up understanding their own worth and power in the world. Because even as I speak, catcalling, profiling, slut-shaming, transphobia and homophobia are still happening. It's happening right now. If I ask you if you're a feminist, I'm purely asking you if you'd be okay with your sister getting harassed when she walks down the street hand in hand with her girlfriend. I'm asking you if you'd be okay with your girlfriend going into business with an endless glass ceiling above her. I'm asking you if you'd be willing to look your daughter in the eye one day and ask, well, what were you wearing? So I will ask again, do we need feminism?